Welcome to the fifth Women in Live Music Weekly Webinar, and thanks for joining. For those who don't know who we are, we're a non-profit organisation who was founded at the beginning of 2018 because currently women only make up a small percentage of the industry, between 5 and 10%. We believe in diversity, and the music industry is a place for everyone. So we started this organisation to grow a positive community and to share our knowledge, skills and opportunity, which is basically what we're doing here today. Despite being called Women in Live Music, we don't exclude anyone from attending our workshops or our webinars, so you're welcome to join, whoever you are. Today we have two panelists, which is super exciting, and we hope that you guys have lots of interesting questions to ask all about festival organisation. So if you can type any questions you have in the chat, I will read them out. Now I'm going to introduce our panelists. We have Sarah, who is organiser of Fieldview Festival, and we have Ana from Serbia, who is sorry, my brain just went, the founder of Iberia Fest in Serbia. Yeah, and Ana is from, where are you from again? Sorry,
Belgrade.
You're from Belgrade, and Sarah is from?
Originally Austria, but live in London.
Perfect. Okay, so I would like you guys just to introduce yourselves and just give a little bit of background about where you came from and how you got to where you are today. So Ana, if you can start.
Yeah, of course. Well, my passions in life are music and languages, which started when I was a little girl. But in high school, I fell in love with Spanish music, or music in Spanish, better to say like that. So I started listening to the music, but I didn't understand the words. So I decided to study Spanish. And English. After that, I started singing in a flamenco group, and bit by bit, my interests were growing with Iberian music, so not just Spain, but also Portugal. So first I was a singer, but then slowly, like 6 or 7 years ago, I started entering different kind of organizations, because I was also interested in organizing cultural events. And 3 years ago, I had this idea to make my festival, the Iberia Fest, because I saw that type of music is very popular in the Balkans. So I wasn't the only person who was having this passion, but also a big number of people in my country and the countries around share the same passion. So that is how I actually decided to make my festival. But the idea was 3 years ago, and only last year did I make it.
Okay, great. And Sarah?
I'm originally from Austria, so I was brought up bilingual though, because my mom's South African, and I moved to London because I did my second master's degree in music business management. And before that, I did a master's in international development with focus on sustainability. So I've always been really passionate about these kind of things, but then transition into music because that was just something that was more graspable for me. Doing my first internship in London, I then met one of my best friends, Dan, who was running a small garden party with his friends at that point. And turned out 3 years later, they turned it into a massive festival, and loads more people got involved, and which eventually turned into Fieldview Festival, which last year was in its 13th year. And so I wasn't part of it straight from the start, but I joined early enough on, and we're a team of 8 organisers who run it voluntarily. We're currently taking a hiatus, just because we're all in our mid-30s now, and it's quite hard having a full-time job and managing a festival. Besides that, by trade, I'm a tour manager. So I previously tour managed bands such as Zara Larsson and Sigma, and I'm currently tour manager for EDM called Alan Walker and a UK band called Clean Bandit. I've also worked with other artists such as Rihanna So I've got a really broad sense when it comes to touring and what to do. And I've just always been really specific when it comes to sustainability and the environment. So not just implementing things I'm passionate about in the festival I work on, but obviously in every single aspect of my life. On a personal level, I've been vegan for over 8 years. So it's like just something I just deal with every day. And I just want to spread the message as much as I can, because I think it sounds like such a big topic and it's so intimidating. But actually, there's so many small little things you can just do, and suddenly you've got a sustainable festival. And it's like, oh, I did that.
Great. So we'll be going a lot more into sustainability a bit later on in this webinar. So Anna, tell us a little bit more about your festival.
Well, it's a festival that promotes Iberian culture, but it's also trying to connect Balkan culture and Iberian culture, or see the connecting points between those two. So, like I said, we're a young festival. Last year we had the first edition, and I'm planning the second edition for this year for September. Hopefully we can make it, and it will. I just hope that it will be possible to gather people. And I already explained where my passion comes from for this type of music and this culture. And talking about sustainability, I want to make my festival eco-friendly and sustainable starting this year. So that's a topic that we're working on.
Great. So you say it's about Iberian culture. Is that just music, or do you feature other things at your festival?
Yeah, we also have, it's not just music, we also have lectures and workshops about different points of culture, and different types of art. So we had a photo exhibition of a Spanish photographer who is living in Serbia. We had a lecture about flamenco music and its connections with the Balkan music, and we had a band who was playing flamenco Balkan music on our festival, so it was very interesting. And we also had a lecture about 3 pillars of Portuguese culture, and also the lecturer did a bit of a comparison between Serbian and Portuguese culture. So we can say it's a multidisciplinary festival, and I tend to keep it that way. So yeah, I'm preparing also other types of workshops and lectures this year.
Okay, great. And Sarah, your festival is, I take it, just music, is that right?
Yeah, so we've got 3 stages. So main stage and then 2 smaller stages, but we also host a lot of workshops. We also, in the most current years, had a new thing called the games area, which has really come to prominence, where people can go and there's always something fun going on. We were working quite closely with a really amazing collective called the Provibers, who just bring good energy and good vibes, and it's fun and gives people an opportunity to explore different things. And in one of the areas, so we've got the main stage, then the second stage, the games area in between, and then we've got the village stage, which is more like a nice chill out place. We've got like blues music and more relaxed things and world music. And in there, we would also host workshops, so similar to what Anna was saying, but there was like poetry. Depending which charity partner we're working with there, they'll give like talks. We had like beekeeping. We had a solar panel workshop, like all of those kind of things, to just give people the opportunity. If they don't want to have music all the time, there will be something from 10 a.m. till 1 or 2 in the morning they can go that's curated for them. And in the mornings, we also have like yoga from the main stage, or friends of ours will do a DJ set called Rise and Vibes, which is just really relaxed music while you're getting like an egg and bacon roll and you're a bit hungover. So it's all just to give you that really nice 3-4 day ease into like a nice little lifestyle.
Sounds lovely. I wish I was there right now, actually. It sounds great. So what skills do you guys think has helped you in your role as festival organisers? Anna, do you have any particular attributes, do you think?
Well, I started 7 years ago. I started working for a World Music Association of Serbia, and that was a great experience. I learned a lot by also visiting WOMEX, the World Music Expo. It's the biggest expo of world music in the world. So I got to know a lot of people who were actually in the industry. And last year I was a fellow of a EU-funded program called Sukarmus, which is Sustainable Careers in Music. So actually, I think in my case, it's a lot of experience. And I was lucky enough to meet people who are already in the industry and have this direct contact with them, so I can ask them whatever doubts or questions I had, which was really, really helpful. And that program, the Sukarmus, that I was attending this year, was really like a big push for me to continue with what I'm doing, because I also had some difficulty because, the first edition is also always the hardest. The beginning is very hard. So skills, I don't know, probably communication, but I would say that the most important thing is actually people. I mean, people make everything, so connections, a good team. I couldn't do anything of this alone. So I would say that talking with people, asking questions, getting a good team, that's really important.
Okay, cool. So it's important to be a good team player, I suppose, because, who can put on a festival by themselves? I certainly wouldn't attempt it. Sarah, do you have any skills you think have helped you in putting on a Fieldview Festival?
I think I would say the biggest one is personability. People will do anything for you if they like you. So I think if you can then back that up with like a really hardworking ethic, and that's something that's continued throughout my life, is I'm not a person who likes to put myself in the front row of things. I rather keep a bit more quiet and then back it up with like really hard work. So I put myself out there a lot, especially in the beginning with Fieldview. I think it was instrumental that I was like, I just want to work on this full time, but I'll do it for free because I'm so keen. So when I met Dan, which was actually at an internship we both did, it was just that connection where I was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work and to work really hard. And luckily enough, as I said, there's 8 of us and it's an amazing group of people. Like everyone brings something else to the table. So I think that hard work ethic with just not talking again, you can't really back up, paired with meeting the right people, which, as Anna said, you surround yourself by amazing people who have skill sets that you just don't have. And it's not about you learning those skill sets. It's about knowing that that's what they do and that's what I do best. And if we come together and we're not jealous of each other, we can actually make this amazing thing happen.
Yeah, fantastic. I want to talk some numbers, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So a question for both of you. How many what's your capacity for your festivals, just to start? Anna?
Well, my festival for now is a smaller scale festival. So we had 2 days, and in those 2 days, I think we had around 600 people.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah?
On our biggest year, we had around 4,000. So it's normally not that big, and we had a couple of good years because we booked a couple of really good acts. Because we're a charity-run festival, that means everything's volunteer run, so all the management positions we go and get paid. We do pay our bar staff and we pay the bands, but otherwise everyone who's involved in the festival doesn't get paid, which is huge, which also means we have a huge CSR, which is a community social responsibility, because luckily Dan's parents have a really good community within the town where we host it, and they all come together and help us run the barbecue tent for food. Some of our other friends' parents will help us with wristbanding, and then the friends will do face painting. So it's very much about tapping into that community and using it as something that will be more beautiful. And I think that helps because no one gets paid. Everyone really wants to be there. So there's just this insane amount of love going around. And it sounds really hippie, but it just works.
Okay, so how many people do you have, or do you think you have running your festival, all these volunteers?
Oh, God. Probably, so in the core we 8, but I would say we run on about 800 to 1,000 volunteers.
Wow, that's
so
a lot.
because it's everything you can imagine, and everyone just commits a bit of their time and like all that kind of stuff, you know. But that number is obviously also includes crew and suppliers and bands. So the volunteers itself probably a bit lower, but that's just the total number of people we have coming on who are doing something else than attending.
Okay, and Anna, how many people do you have helping with your festival?
Yeah, we were 4 people in the organization and plus technicians, so we were 9 in total.
Okay. Do you guys have plans? Because I get the sense of, maybe it's just my experience of festivals, that every year it needs to be bigger and better and get, you know, more people in that. Do you guys have that? Do you plan to make your festivals bigger? Is that like the goal, Sarah?
Wow, this is a really good question, because that's something we've always focused on, growth, because we are non-sponsored and charity-run festivals, so all profits, we don't keep any of the profits, we donate them. It's always been our goal to get more tickets sold in order for us to get more money to book bigger bands, because that's something we really struggle with, especially in the current climate where live music has become the center of an artist's income. So that means fees are just ridiculously high. And if you're a charity-run festival like we are, non-for-profit festival as we are, that's one of our biggest expenses. Now, bearing in mind, we're in the British countryside in Wiltshire, and we obviously have to look at our community and what's affordable. So our ticketing price for Thursday till Sunday festival, where you've got curated content all the time, is only at around £65. So that's not a lot of money. So within that money, if you multiply that by however many tickets we sell, 2,000-3,000, that has to cover everything from crew, suppliers, staging, bands, decor, waste management, anything, toilets, anything you can imagine. Because we're going to a field, we also have to put in all the infrastructure. So there's not a lot of money left. So it's been on our mind to keep growing in order to book the better bands, because we just struggled year on year to have the talent we need in order to advertise to a bigger audience, because we are quite small within who we are. So we did, and then we decided to stop in 2012 because we were like, we can't do this anymore. We can't find sponsors that align ethnically and sustainably with what we are about. We had some approaches by sponsors and some bigger promoters who were like, oh, we'll do this and we'll do that, but none of them worked on ethical level. So we were kind of stuck. So we said, oh, we're not doing it again. And then we did the festival and we were like, oh no, we have to do it again. This is amazing. So then we did it again for another 3 years. And we were like, okay, but then we realized now we really, obviously the fees got higher and higher and our expenses got higher and higher. And therefore we would have had to put a ticket price up. But even if we upped our ticket price by £5, people would be like, no, it's too much. We can't afford this. And we couldn't up the prices of our alcohol on the site either, because we wanted to be in line with the local pubs. So you don't want to be charging £8 at a festival for a pint when at the pub it costs £4.50. Then no one from your local community is going to come and they'll just feel ripped off. So it's a really hard balance, which has now sadly left us in the place where we're just getting older and we're just not sure where to go with it now. Either decrease in size down to 500 and just do something really small and local for the people who've been over the last 13 years, or come back in full swing. But we really need funding in that case, because we just can't employ people because there's no money, and there's only so much all of us can give of their free time when they've got full-time jobs.
Yeah, that's true. So you feel like you kind of reached a limit within your community.
Yeah, we definitely. In size, we definitely have. And we then obviously, after our peak, I call it in 2012, 2013, obviously ticket sales started going down because there was more and more competition. A couple of festivals had changed their dates the same weekend as our festival. Some in Oxfordshire, which isn't too far from us. So that really impacted our network of friends, because they would all then go to that bigger festival. So they wouldn't come to ours anymore. So our pool just started lessening. So the circle of friends we had and we could tap into now would go to other places, because weekends got changed around. Even though we've always been on the same one, that's not how other festivals work. So that really impacted us. And that's why we had to take a hard look at ourselves last year and just be like, actually, this is not something we can keep doing, because as much as we love it, it's not feasible anymore. The festival we put on, especially Dan and James, the two founders, like, they're so meticulous with how they want things done, and it's to such a high level, as well as our head of decor, that it's just, there's no point, you know what I mean? We just can't deliver the product we want for the money we have.
And Anna, do you feel like you will grow Iberia Fest to be bigger? Is it going to be bigger the next time you do it?
Well, I hope so. But I'm not in a hurry. I'm not trying to force or rush things. So I'm just letting it breathe and has its own natural way. I'm really quite happy with connections that I make with people and the community here. So for this year, this year is very specific. So I think, I don't know if I should comment it, but we will not, even in the first edition, we didn't sell tickets. So it was a free entrance. This year it will be the same, and it will be really small scale. Maybe probably we will have less people than last year. But in the future, I'm planning to EU funds. EU funding, and because the first edition was funded from private sponsorships, and we have good connections with institutions like Portuguese Embassy, Instituto Cervantes in Belgrade. So I do hope we will grow, but let's see. I'm not having this kind of huge plans like having thousands of people. I'm just doing what's doable every year, like step by step, and we'll see where it's going to lead us. But like I said, I'm planning to include sustainability, so that will, I think, it will attract more people. It will be something new in this festival. So more people as lecturers and people who know what they're doing, and professionals who will talk about that subject. So I guess we'll probably have a bit more audience because of that.
Okay, so Sarah mentioned something just now about, especially in the UK, we're quite oversaturated with festivals these days. It seems like there's, at any weekend, there's like 4 or 5 different festivals happening. Do you feel like, because Iberia Fest is quite niche in the culture, do you feel like there's not as much competition in Belgrade so that no one is going to kind of come in and take away your customers, if that makes sense?
Yeah, the audience. Well, actually, this type of festival, like Iberia Fest, it doesn't exist on Balkans. So in Serbia or in the countries next to us. So it's quite unique. But let's see. For now, it's like that. So that's probably good for us. Yeah.
Okay. I want to know from both of you how long it takes you guys to plan your festivals. What's your starting point as well? Sarah?
So our festival is the first weekend in August, and we start planning the year up for the next year in October. So we take 2 months to ourselves to just write down notes, to have some like catch-up meetings about what went wrong and what we want to change. And then that's when we start. So it's always the first weekend of August. So we start the October the year before.
Okay, and Anna. Anna.
Sorry, my internet is kind of bad at the moment. What was the question? Sorry.
How long in advance do you start your preparing your festival for next year, and what is the first thing you start doing?
Well, I think you should definitely start preparing it at least 1 or 1 year and a half before the date. So that's usually when I start, 1 year before. And I don't know, but I have various ideas in my head. So I'm constantly, I have my notebooks and I'm constantly writing things down, so with time they get more defined. And that's a really strong recommendation from my side that you should do that. Like every idea that you have, sometimes I have an idea, it's really cool to implement, but I don't know how or where or when to do it. But anyways, I write down. So yeah, but because you have to contact, definitely start at least 1 year before the first edition.
Okay, and do you use any like spreadsheets or software to kind of keep all your information organized in one place?
I'm a really old school notebook person, so I have my notebooks and I prefer writing than typing. It's a totally different feeling. But when we start sending mails or invitations, or when I have to use the laptop or emails or documents, I do. But when we're talking about ideas and writing the project down, I prefer using a pen and a notebook.
Okay, so you haven't got this big like Dropbox or Google kind of documents where everything is just all kept?
No, I'm totally opposite.
Okay. How about you, Sarah?
We have, because we're a bigger team than Anna, because there's 8 of us, we've got obviously the big Google Drive. We've got all the shared documents, especially Dan. He's quite on it because he also works for a massive music production company. So he's really good at like keeping everyone on track with that kind of stuff. And he's also a wizard when it comes to anything production related. So we all work off a massive Google Drive. And what also really helps us is we've got a WhatsApp group. So we've got one main WhatsApp group for all of the organizers together in one group, and everyone has their own parts. So we've split our team up in Dan, who will just be basically is in charge of the whole festival, so to speak, as like the main founder, but he's in charge of the production. Then he's also got another person who's in charge of the technical production. Then we've got someone in charge of IT. Then I'm in charge of operations and artist production, that kind of side of things. Then Johnny, who runs the second stage, he's in charge of his stage and artist booking for his stage. Then we've got James, Dan's brother, who runs the village, all the workshops there, and booking the talent for his stage. And then we've got someone in charge of traders and someone in charge of volunteers. So that's how our circle ends. Oh, and we've got someone designated to health and safety. So everyone in those areas, obviously, we all sit with a different group of people. So, for example, being part of the bigger group of artist production, I also book bands. So the guy who books the second stage and James who books the third stage and me, we'll always be talking about talent, and we'll always be chatting. Who can we book? How much do they cost? Are they currently on tour? Can we talk to another festival in our area in order to make them cheaper, because we can talk to our mates down the road and be like, can you play Friday with us for X amount of money if you then play Saturday with them? So therefore get a better deal. We refuse to work with any bands who have to be flown in. So we already see if we work within their touring cycle. So we sit together, and then obviously we'll have an amazing talent assistant who does all our contracting for us and deals with any contracts that come through, and she just keeps us on track. So then we've got another person who just helps us with some bands and recommends some stuff. So just the artist bookings team, we're already 6 people. So within that circle, we sit here. So we'll have one big WhatsApp group for us, but then we'll have a smaller WhatsApp group for our little area. And that's really how it works. So then we just all feed back into one big thing, which keeps accountability really high. And everyone exactly knows what they're in charge of. So if I need, for example, I know, because part of my artist production is the dressing rooms, I know I go to my head of decor and I go, listen, I need decor for my dressing rooms. Can you do that? But if I don't go to him and tell him that, he won't do that because that's not on his job. So does that make sense? So we've got a really good and positive way of feeding into each other without it being too convoluted and that kind of thing. So then also I just also keep an eye on health and safety and all of that, because I mostly run the production office as well. So it's my job to then make all of this communication smooth and be also a point where everyone can come to ask questions. So, for example, if someone from Artist Liaison comes and says, oh, we need more alcohol, I'll be like, okay, I'll check a list, how much alcohol did they order, and then I'll speak to the bars manager, radio through and say, we need this amount of this from the storage. But then my artist liaison couldn't just go there and get that. It would have to be a certain line they have to follow, because otherwise everyone could just go behind the bar and just grab whatever they wanted. So it does seem like a big, messy thing, but actually we've got a really good system where we all just feed perfectly into each other.
Okay, great. You just kind of touched on it, which is going to be my next question, which is about how you guys are involved in choosing the artists that play at your festivals. So you just mentioned that you ring up other festivals and you try and get cheeky discounts and stuff. Who is deciding who plays ultimately, and what kind of acts you're bringing to your festival?
So basically what we do is, luckily we are all graced between, so myself, Dan, Johnny and James, we all graced with a very different type of musical style, which makes us the perfect team, because one person loves rock, one person loves blues, one person loves world music. I'm more of the poppy side of things and maybe electronic music. So we were like, oh my God, this band is amazing. And then my friend would be like, no, but this band is amazing. So we have all these arguments. But what we know is we all have to kind of stay within the money ballpark we know we can spend. So then the conversation starts. Okay, where do we book this act? How much can we get them for? Have you spoken to this agent? If we can pay this for this act, can we also get this act? It's all about negotiating with your friends and backing it up, being like, I saw this amazing act that is no name, but at the festival they went off last year at Festival X, that we have to book them, And then we also trust each other that works. So we've really been so good with our music. We've had such amazing acts play that have come so far. We've had Ben Howard, we've had Lucy Rose, we've had Bears Den, we had God Almighty, we've just had so many. We had Bastille booked, but then one of the guys broke his leg in the beginning, so they couldn't come. We were like, no. We actually booked Clean Bandit years ago almost, but at that point the agent said they weren't ready for a headline slot on the second stage yet. We offered on Ed Sheeran because James saw him play in a pub. Like literally, we just graced the most amazing people in our circle of friends. So we really were quite good with being really on point with our music. And that's all because between James, Johnny, and Dan and myself, there was just such an amazing dynamic and such love for music that if someone said, I saw this amazing band and they have no following, but trust me, they're amazing, we would just be like, yeah, cool, done.
Great, I love that. So you're all curating it together.
Yeah, but obviously, given the whole women's thing, something we struggled with last year or the year before was I was like, we have to make our lineup 50% because blah, 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 blah. This is important to me. And it was impossible. And I've always been so preachy about it. I can't believe Reading has no female headliners. What is going on? If women don't see themselves, then it can't aspire to be this. And, giving it all the chat. And then being in that position, I was like, fuck, I need to sell 1,000 tickets. And the problem is the media just doesn't, or people just don't pick up on female-fronted bands. So we had Wolf Alice play, which we loved, and that was obviously fucking amazing. And we've had some really good female-fronted bands, but we were stuck in that conundrum. All festivals are stuck as if male-fronted bands just seem to sell more tickets, and it's just so fucking annoying. But it's a reality we face. And then we were like, okay, we're just going to book female acts now because we need to fill up the lineup, and that kind of felt wrong as well. But we kind of managed to got that. I think we got to 60-40 balance, but it wasn't without a lot of serious conversations and also questioning our own music taste and booking bands based on the female perspective alone, disregarding ticket sales or monetary value of what they would cost to bring them there. It's really hard conversation you have to have with yourself and just be like, okay, what can we do? So that was a huge learning curve for us, that we said if we ever do it again, from the outright, we'll be more conscious about it. Because we weren't conscious about it when we started booking bands back in October, December. We only started getting conscious about it when we looked at our lineup that was almost fully booked and we went, holy fuck, it's 80-20, and that's not cool.
That's a whole topic, really, we could spend hours on, and maybe we'll touch on it a bit later. Anna, how do you go about curating the acts and artists that come to your festival?
Well, I listen to their music, and
so you guys are just bringing who you want to your festivals. It's all for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, of course, the first thing is quality, and talent. I don't care if they're famous or not. I don't really care about anything else, So my main the main way I choose people is quality for whatever in my festival, in the team, for the artist. I mean, that's the whole point. It can be a small scale or a large scale festival. You have to have good musicians, good artists, good people.
Okay. My next question is a little bit on finance. So I know both of you rely on funding for your festivals. How do you go about getting that funding? I know it's quite a difficult process to go through and quite stressful sometimes.
I'm actually going to take myself out of that question because we don't have any funding, actually. We sorry if I said that wrong earlier. We actually only rely on ticket sales. So that's the only money we have incoming, and then all our profits go to charity. So that's why we've struggled so much in the past. So that's probably something Anna can answer.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the first edition of my festival was funded by private sponsorships. So every festival is growing from year to year. And some of the, for example, EU projects for funding, one of the things that they ask is that the festival exists for 2 or 3 years. So first edition is very specific. So we didn't have much choice. It had to be private sponsorships, and so we tried to speak with people who understand us, and we made some good partnerships. So we made some good deals. And as I said, we had the entrance was free, so we didn't earn any money. So we were on the zero. So it was just to pay the band and the venue and the security, the technicians. That was for the first edition. The second edition, being that we're in a year that is specific, will probably be less or more the same. But as I said, for 2021, and I am thinking about applying for EU funds.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the issues you faced in planning your festivals, whether it could be finance or people management, or just, like if the weather's bad, like how do you kind of manage all these different variables, things that could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, for example, I'm talking about the very beginnings. Maybe somebody is thinking about making their own festival, so maybe it can be useful. Every time that you're doing something new in your life, you're probably full of insecurities, So, for example, I would say that I would just give an advice that it's very, very important, especially in the beginning, to trust yourself first and then everybody else. Because I had a partner who is from Spain, and we were making the project together. And being that we got a lot of no's and rejections from the private sponsors, he thought that the festival will not be able to make. So we will not be able to make the festival. So he decided to quit. So I was all alone 3 months before the first edition of the festival. And it was hard, but I believed myself first and then everybody else. So I didn't stop. I went on with the project. I went on talking to people and found it was interesting to be a sponsor, and institutions that said yes. I made really good contacts with the Portuguese embassy, for example. that's about it. I mean, for the first edition and the very beginnings.
Okay, and Sarah, are there some kind of issues that you faced that you want to talk about?
I don't even know where to start. A plethora of everything you can imagine. But I think one key thing is, and because Dan works, so the festival director, he works so heavily in just music and heavily corporate production, and I obviously have such a big, heavy music background. Between the two of us, we're always really, really arrogant when it comes to stuff. Because like, oh, we don't need this. Oh, if this happens, we can deal with this. Oh my God, it's going to be fine. But actually, it's never fine. So we've got Dan's mom, who's an absolute legend, and she's always nagging us, being like, no, you need to consider this, you need to consider that. What if people drink too much? What if the doors open too early? What if it rains? Like super normal stuff. And she'll always remind us about these things. And we'll always be like, oh, this is so boring. We'll deal with it when it comes. No. It's like you have to deal with it, because you either deal with it before or you deal with it after, but you have to deal with it. There's just no way around it. And if you deal with it after, it's a huge pile of shit that's just going to ruin your weekend. So we learned quite early on to listen to her, even though it can be annoying, but we love her very much, that we have to just think about everything. And that includes sore topics as what happens if someone takes too many drugs and passes out? What happens if a child gets lost? What happens if lightning strikes? What happens if we have a power cut? What happens if part of the stage falls down? What happens if the headliner pulls out? What happens if one of the team dies? Like the most bizarre things we went through. And sadly to say, a lot of those things have happened. We've had problems with drugs because, of course, we've got stupid kids who do stupid things. But you know what? We had the best, amazing first aid team. We had the best, amazing tent. We spent extra money on ambulances. We had everything. So everything was taken care of and everything was handled so perfectly that nothing has ever been an issue, because we bought that extra wood we could put down on the floor in case it rained, if there was mud, you know. We went the extra mile to buy other things to put down, to buy the fridge cooler because potentially the weather was going to be super hot. We went the extra mile to get more security because we were scared too many people were jumping the fence and were causing problems. You know, we always went that extra mile, and every time it paid off. Not once did we spend money on something and said it wasn't worth it, because it also just gave us peace of mind. Like night managers. In the beginning, Dan and I would take shifts on like managing the festival at night, which is obviously huge. And then we were like, this is not worth it. We need peace of mind. We also need to sleep because we need to reopen the doors at 8. So we started investing in really good night managers. Huge weight off our shoulders. But obviously also hard to admit that you need someone else to help you because you can't do everything alone. So it's just investing that money. And especially for us, it was just hard because we had to give up responsibility. And obviously, because of the 8 of us are all quite like amazing at what they do, there's also a lot of egos you have to be aware of, and everyone's really opinionated. But it's that especially really just made this amazing dynamic and managed to make us succeed for 13 years because we talked about all the hard things all the time.
That's great. Yeah, it's really good that you kind of try to be prepared for anything and everything that's going to happen, because I've worked festivals in the past where, you know, things like weather haven't been taken into account of, and we've had a downpour and, you know, people have left and, you know, so yeah, it's really, especially in the UK, to be aware of all these things, the bad things that can go wrong. Yeah.
100%. I think a lot of people just hope for the best, and not in a bad way. They just don't think this is going to happen to them. And every time you think that, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, it's just no way around. So, yeah, I mean, for example, one year we couldn't open the doors in time because one of the stages wasn't ready. So then we took some of the team from the games area and they walked down the queues and played games with the people and did fun stuff with them and kept them entertained, you know, like it's just about coming up with creative solutions to problems. So when we had a power cut, we had to close one of the stages, or we had such bad lightning that we had to usher everyone into like much smaller spaces. And those things only work if you've spoken to your team and you've gone, what happens if lightning strikes? These are the exit routes. This is what the festival looks like. In the production office, a big piece of paper where these are the routes you have to take. This is what you have to do, you know? And every day we would have my clipboard from this moment the site open, like the build started, I would walk around, be like, this is health and safety every single day. This is what you have to do. If this happens, do this. And everyone's like, again. And I'm just like, if something happens, this is information is what you'll be grateful for.
Yeah. I want to talk about sustainability, which I know is a topic that a lot of us are really passionate about. Anna, how are you exploring implementing sustainability into your next edition of your festival? And what does it mean to you personally to be sustainable and green?
Yeah, well, I will make my festival eco-friendly. I will also organize some workshops and lectures about zero waste and sustainability. So we will not, for example, we will not use plastic. Plastic will be totally banned. For the promotion material, I'm planning to make a workshop with the audience where we can paint the logo of the festival and all the decoration on cardboard and paper, so using just natural materials. For example, in bathrooms, we will have soaps and natural cosmetic, not using any detergents and these chemicals. So I think education is also really important, especially Serbia, which is a country who is a bit behind with all of this. So yeah, and we will definitely make a lecture about sustainability and how festivals can help in that area.
Great. And Sarah, what do you feel?
Because I also lectured university, I've prepared a little slide. I couldn't help myself.
I love slides. Let's do it.
So I'll share some links with you afterwards. But this is basically The Music Must Go On, an environmental impact report and vision for the UK music industry. And it basically just a good overview about where all the waste goes that festivals generate. So as you can see, it's like 23 tons of waste, where 70% of that almost going to landfill, which is terrible. Also, when you look at the travel and the emissions that come from that, you've got almost 80% going towards car. And obviously you've got lift, chair, trains, camper van, coach, which personally, on a personal level, I'm like, guys, what is that about? Like, there's so many other options people can use in order to get to a festival. It really doesn't have to look like this. If you look at carbon emissions, carbon footprint, the use of biofuels, and that's now a really interesting topic, biodiesel, because at Fieldview, we're in the middle of a field, there's no infrastructure. Obviously, by default, that already makes us an environmentally unfriendly festival because we have to put infrastructure into the location. So that's already an issue, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't use biofuel simply because we would have to get a biofuel generator from Bristol, which is the closest, biggest town with biofuel generators. Now, if we pack that biofuel generator on a truck that can transport it to our site for 1.5 to 2 hours, that's going to be more emissions than getting a normal generator that runs on normal diesel from the farm down the road. So it actually sounds like we're being environmentally unfriendly, but actually, if you add up the trip it takes to pick it up, bring it here, go back to Bristol, then 5 days later, go there, pick it up and take it back, it would have used more fuel and generated more carbon emissions than if we would have just used the diesel generator from our neighbors next door. So that obviously is something you have to bear in mind, that the sustainability thing works also good for marketing and is amazing and we're all about it, but also you have to be realistic with yourself. What are you doing and how are you getting to your goal? For example, in the year 2011, 12 and 13, our village stage was run on solar panels only, which was amazing. But after the 2013, we had to stop using them because we couldn't afford it. So we tried to make our own solar panels. We did all the workshops, even with people on site. We did all of it. We couldn't afford it anymore. Like, we've got £65 a ticket with no sponsorship and no funding. Like, where are we going to get all that money? And again, import them from Bristol or worse, even London, and bring all that stuff over and truck it to our festival. And then that's just much worse. So it's a really tricky way to deal with that kind of thing. And I think what we started doing is to look at a closed loop economy, it would say. So where you use something that goes into something, that goes into something, that can again then go into something. For example, the the Glastonbury flask that's made out of metal. I think you get like 100,000 uses over it before it can get recycled back into itself, So that's the idea, that you've got a closed loop recycling in a way, and things can be used all over again. So all our stage decor, all our site signs, everything we have, we reuse every year, and we just put fresh paint over it. We don't buy anything new. We obviously don't use any plastics. We don't allow really for plastic on site. We've got sustainable cups that everyone can carry around and refill, so there's no single-use plastics. But it's tricky because you want to make sure you close that loop. So what our mission was, if we would have done festival for this year, is to build the staging in a way that it can be modular. So that means we build staging in a way that if we've spoken to our local community, and let's say they need seats for the local gym hall or for an outdoor space they're creating, we'll build the stage with more expensive materials that can then be modular, transformed into a seating area at the local high school or at the local town hall, which then can be reused. Therefore, you get so much more uses, except for one time at your festival out of it. And that's really something I think festivals need to start considering, or talking to landowners and being like, okay, can I leave this structure up over the year? What can I do that I don't have to break it down? Is there something I can build that would work for you during the year? And if it's a feeding ground for cows, that will potentially act as shelter for them on sunny days because you don't have that many trees for them. And that's something where you just have to start thinking about, I'm going to invest a bit more money, but in the long run, also great marketing. I'm also building chairs for this school for the kids to sit outdoors, so that reward will be much bigger. And then the car situation, local transport. But again, then as the festival organizer, you're putting on loads of buses. What if no one buys the bus tickets? What if then you've budgeted too small for the car parking space? What if you make it as simple as every car that arrives, I charge £40 to discourage people from taking their cars? People aren't that stupid. People will just park their car 10 meters down the road in the neighbor's fields and get in the mate's car and then drive up like that and leave the other car in the other field where you don't see it. So you haven't solved the issue. People are clever enough to just get around these kind of things. So you want to create things that are interesting to people, where it's enough of an incentive to do something better, but not at their inconvenience. And I think that's really the crux of the story with everything you're doing that is sustainable and environmentally friendly.
Do you think as a kind of organizer of a festival, you have like a responsibility really, and maybe some of these other festivals that aren't implementing sustainability have something to answer for?
I think we all have something to answer for. I think our single-use society, we just all have something to answer for. It goes down as simple as, I like to go to my local coffee shop and get 1 or 2 coffees every day. If I don't bring my keep cup, I can't have a coffee because that coffee pleasure lasts exactly 10 minutes and then I chuck away that cup. If I'm an outward-facing celebrity, then obviously my accountability is even higher because loads of people watch my behavior. If I'm a corporate company, yes, I believe in corporate responsibility. If the government is telling us we have to recycle in order to save the planet, but company X, Y, and Z is producing plastic like crazy, not even switching off their lights in the evening or polluting rivers or whatever it is in an extreme scale, there has to be a balance. And I think we need to also stop shaming each other. People can only do their best in what works for them. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to do this because otherwise you're a bad person and you're destroying your children's future. It's like, no, you can just do what you can do. If you have to rely on some sort of single-use plastic, then that's what you have to do. If you don't have the money to buy organic products, then you just can't. It's like, but if you're aware of the things you do in your everyday life, you can make a change. And that's really something we really considered every year on at Fieldview, where we're like, what can we do and what can we do better that isn't to the detriment of the festival because we don't have enough money, but that actually betters the planet. And that was just basically just keep reusing. And even if it didn't look so pretty, we just washed the fabrics, or I was behind the bar washing cups because we refused to do so. I just did a bit of washing up for an hour every day, you just have to give in to that feeling where you're just like, okay, I just have to do that bit. And if you take the train and you have to walk 10 extra minutes to the festival instead of taking your car to drive all the way to have that easier convenience, then maybe that convenience just isn't worth it. Maybe just walk and your festival ticket will be cheaper.
Yeah, I think individual accountability is probably something that will see more of, hopefully. I mean, I hope people will kind of take that initiative themselves and not have to be told to do things. I'm going to look and see if we've got some questions. Guys who are watching, please just feel free to type anything. We have a question from Chloe, who says she's currently an events management graduate. And Sarah, you said you've done a master's degree, so she's wondering if you thought, especially in the current circumstances, that if it was worth doing a master's in events for a festival.
The direct answer is no, but I wouldn't have met Dan and started running Fieldview Festival if I wouldn't have been for university. I think university isn't there for what you learn, it's about the people you meet. And the the music business management at Westminster University. I graduated in 2011, I think. And if it wouldn't have been for that, I wouldn't have gotten an internship at Mama Group and I wouldn't have met Dan. So, and still to this day, I work with people who I met not on the course, but through the course. And I think that's what university is about, is connecting with like-minded people. And the learning you get from it is just an added bonus. So it's not necessary, but it can be helpful.
I think that can be applied to a lot of roles in the music industry, actually. Let's have a look. So we've got a question about booking bands. I think we covered that one. And we just talked about environmentally friendly thing. So I'm going to ask Anna, do you have any advice for someone who may be looking into starting their own festival?
Well, yes, as I said, trust yourself first and trust your instincts. And if you have a dream and a plan and you think it's really, really important and valuable to fight for it, just do it. And people, it's always about people. So connect as much as you can. Don't be afraid or embarrassed to ask. So ask people who already went through the path that you're just starting, and just open up.
Do you think it's good to volunteer for festivals and things like that to get an idea of how they run?
Yeah, of course. I mean, experience is very valuable. So everything that you can do for in order to make that experience and use it after, do it.
Great. And Sarah, do you have any advice for someone who might be looking to start their own festival?
Yeah, basically what Anna said, like, just be your own biggest fan, because a lot of people will tell you can't do it or all of that kind of stuff. And the stigma still is obviously really hard for women to work in production and all of those kind of things. And I mean, just like working really hard is at the end of the day, no matter how loud you shout, the only thing that's really going to get you places, because for some reason, that's the one thing even men have to respect, is that you work hard and you do a really good job. And it's just about getting your head down and just really working so hard for what you want, because you deserve to be successful. You deserve to have your own festival. You deserve to have your own event. If you're good at your job, you deserve everything you're getting, the attention, the praise, everything. And let no one take that away from you. Like, if you want it, just go for it. And that's all you can do, and fight for it.
I know we've kind of avoided talking about it so far, kind of intentionally, because we're all kind of sick of it. But yeah, here it comes. How do you think we are going to have to change festivals in the future, the way we plan them, to basically cope with things such as COVID-19 and just general? How do you think festivals are going to look in the future? Sarah?
I've been thinking about it a lot. Obviously now there's this talk of like 200 cap events starting to open in Scandinavia by the summer. capitalist in me goes, there's no way the UK will let this drag on for another more than 6 months. So everything will go back to normal simply because we've got a Tory government and they'll want everything back on track as fast as possible. So potentially we don't even have to deal with it in 2021. I think there's a shift in people's mind. I hope that they will consider different ways, maybe about holidays and therefore like festival tickets, that they won't go to Benicassim or they won't go to Tomorrowland, that maybe they'll look at Fieldview, or maybe they'll look at Boomtown, which is obviously the UK's version of Tomorrowland, or festivals that are just closer to home in order to avoid international travel, which obviously is one of the biggest emissions when it comes to sustainability. I don't see how cultural events in any scope can survive with a 2-meter distancing rule. I really don't. I don't believe in online festival experiences. I've participated in some over the last 2 months. None of them have really touched my core, because live music is just something that shatters your soul in the most beautiful way imaginable. So it just doesn't do it for me. So I think we all just have to breathe through 2020 and tap into those savings or bank mom and dad, and then just come back in 21 and be like, okay, be the first one on that line and make your event and your festival just the best fucking thing the world has ever seen, because we all deserve to have the best summer ever after all of this shit.
Yeah. And Anna, how is it in Serbia with regards to COVID-19? Are you going to have to change the way you run things, or the way you think festivals are going to kind of look in the future?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. So, do I think we will have to change?
Yeah. So how do you think, especially in your country, we're going to deal with things like this happening in the future? Because I guess we have to expect that this isn't a one-off occasion.
Yeah.
It's quite a difficult question. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, as Sarah said, I think things will just with time will go back to normal. I'm looking at this situation like as natural disaster. That's what really is, And what can you do with natural disasters? No one knows when they appear, why they appear. So there. Scope and possibilities. So I'm just hoping back that we will go to normal as soon as possible. And we have the backup plan making option events, but as we know, it's totally different than a live event. But it's a good option, like temporary solution. So.
Because Anna, you said you're going ahead with your festival this year, aren't you?
Well, we don't have. We're not in lockdown anymore in Serbia, so everything is slowly coming back to normal. They're mentioning some festivals being held in July, like a smaller scale on an open space, because it's summer. So I think until September the situation will be good enough to make my festival, and it will also be a smaller scale. It will be allowed, let's say 100 or 200 people together. But never mind. I mean, the important thing is that we make it. So let's see. But I mean, this was something really unpredictable, and I think you cannot really make plans for unpredictable things, But also Sarah mentioned that the message of people is changed. So I really want to believe that people will pay more attention to culture and art, because we had the opportunity to see again what it really means to humans and to human soul and spirit. So let's hope that maybe in 2021 everything will be like boosted, I really hope for that.
Okay, so that kind of brings us up to time. I'm gonna just end this on one question, which actually Chloe has asked as well. So this is kind of perfectly wrapped up. And it's, how do you guys recommend gaining experience in festivals at a time when festivals are down? Do you have any YouTube channels, any kind of advice for someone who wants to be getting this experience, but obviously hasn't got a chance to really do so physically at the moment? Anna, maybe you want to share some insight?
Yeah, well, I think you can always contact the people who are organizing festivals and just send them an email or a message and just ask whatever you want to ask. Just say that you want to be a volunteer and that you would like to have experience in whatever area that you want to. That is at least what I was doing even before, you know. If I saw something interesting, an interesting festival going on, and I wanted to be a part of it, I just write an email and ask for a meeting, or, you know, now it can be online meeting. But I mean, it's the same thing, less or more, online or offline. So, you know, just don't be afraid to ask and contact people. And I would like to use this opportunity. If anybody wants to contact me, you can always do it. I can send my contacts, and I don't know, I can answer some of your questions. Maybe I can include you in the process of making this project for this year. Just ask whatever you like.
Okay, great. I'll put your email in the chat, so if anyone wants it, they can get in contact. Sarah, do you have any advice for people who are wanting to learn?
Yeah, obviously we're still in lockdown. What I've personally been doing to educate myself, I've signed up to loads of like masterclasses and webinars, and that's not something I ever did before. I'm not a person who likes to spend time on Netflix. I'm not a person who likes to online educate themselves. It's just, I'm too hyperactive for that. But I have found extreme solstice in that. I'm educating myself on so many new levels I didn't know before. I've been taking business class courses. I've been watching webinars. I've been watching Q&As. I mean, that really means I have a lot of time on my hands. I've also been watching a lot of music documentaries. I just recently watched one on YouTube about how they do Coachella. And obviously, I'm not a huge fan of the Americans anyways, but it is one of the most known festivals in the world. And it actually made me cry, not because anything sad happened, but because my heart was just bleeding for that experience. And I knew what it feels like to be on that stage and to be part of that crew and to be part of that event management team who does those kind of things. So I think in the meantime, just educate yourselves. Watch 3 movies a day, do a webinar a day, do a masterclass, read that book you never got around to. All of those things and events that will give you a bit of insight and that will then just help you recognize when you get on site. But as Anna says, nothing really beats hands-on experience. So yeah, the volunteering thing is a thing once we're allowed to again. But in the meanwhile, just do what I do. It's just trying to educate myself every day. I dedicate like 20 minutes of my day to something, or I podcast it, but I try to keep my mind active and within my industry. And there's a lot of new live streaming stuff coming on. Like, I'll send around the list of places about sustainability. I'm talking to an amazing company called Reverb, which does green touring solutions, which is something I've always been doing, but now want to take to the next level. So that's something I'm now educating myself deeper. In Fieldview, we're obviously talking about this whole like closed loop ecosystem and how we can be a bigger part of that. So all of this wouldn't have come up if we wouldn't have had the time to sit down and really sit with our thoughts, because you're constantly busy. So Ashes is the perfect time to reflect and to grow, not as a person necessarily, because fuck that, we've got enough on our plate, but as your business mind, put your thinking cap on and go, okay, let me be better. Let me be the best version of myself I can be when we go into 2021. And let me be on that Forbes 30 under 30 list, you know, just like show them where it's at.
Great. That's really inspiring. Perfect. Okay. So I am going to say thank you very much to you guys for taking part in this webinar. It's been really great. And thank you for everyone who has joined us. We are doing these webinars every week. So next week we have a Q&A webinar all about tour advancing with Kirsty Hopper. And then the week after, we have a webinar all about volunteering your way into the live music industry.
Nice.
With Natalie Candle, which is going to be really good. So for anyone who wants to know how to get their foot in the door, that will be a really good one in 2 weeks' time. So once again, thank you for coming. We will be sharing all the links about sustainability and stuff when this webinar is uploaded on the Facebook tomorrow. So hold tight, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks Hannah.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye.
Bye.